as many guns for as long as possible. We called him Doc. Welcome to Combat Veterans. And now your host, Aaron Chief Ebert.
Hey, how's it going? This is Combat Vet Vision. Welcome to the show. This is where I get to talk about a lot of things that are going on in my mind, my life, different situational things that I'm taking care of, things that I'm helping out. And it also is for veterans, our sponsor, supporters, volunteers to come on deck to talk about some of the things that they're doing out there, whatever organization you might be. And a quick thank you to Brian Colburn from SitchRadio.com, who manages and produces my show, Combat Vet Vision at SitchRadio.com. Check that out, and it's a great place to be. I'm lucky enough to have Mike Mulari on deck, United States Army veteran combat guy, combat vet that currently works with Columbia Sporting Goods right now and does a whole bunch of cool things. We're going to talk about his story, his transition, things that he's doing in his life and whatnot. So, hey, Mike, thanks a lot. Thanks for being on my show. Welcome to Combat Vet Vision.
Thanks, Chief. Appreciate the invite.
Yeah, we go back a little bit because you were introduced to me by Brian Colburn to even, another cool story behind that too. And you came out, you actually spent a day checking out Warrior Built and doing some things. And you as a combat vet got to see some opportunities that could come your way. And every once in a while I throw one your way. But you're too busy on I throw you a fishing trip that maybe looks like this, and you're already on a fishing trip that's already like this. So you don't really get to take advantage of some of those things that you really love to do. So yeah, talk a little bit about your experience in the military and what that route took you to and some of that stuff, if you don't mind.
Yeah, appreciate it. I entered the military young, man, right out of high school, and so I remember when I had to get my mom and dad's signature to join the Army. The recruiter came over, and this was a year before 9/11, and my mom said, "Well, he's not going to go to war, is he?" And the recruiter said, "Ma'am, we're not even close to any wartime activities. It's been so long." And so I joined in the year of 2000 when I graduated high school, and the year after that, 9/11 happened, and so I think it was a first class ticket to combat. So I served. I did basic training in Fort Knox and did some training in Maryland for my job. And I was a mechanic, and I worked on howitzers, so the big self-propelled howitzers, the M109s. And originally was going to go to Alaska, but they ended up sending me to Fort Sill, which is home of the artillery for the Army, and spent most of my time there while I wasn't deployed. And at the end of 2002 was when we got our orders to go to Iraq, and so I was part of the pre-convoy as far as getting all the vehicles over to Kuwait and kind of getting ready for that mission. And we were in Kuwait for a while, and then in March is when we kind of marched north into Iraq. So we were there for a year, and that was from 2003 2004. And so as we came back in April of 2004, I ended up getting out of the Army a few months after that. So I just served my initial 4 years, and that was a wrap. So yeah, there for a year when the war started. Saw some stuff that not fun to talk about or think about, and still affects all of us combat veterans to this day. And so I think I'm fortunate enough to be on this show today to kind of maybe help another veteran listen in today and what that transition looks like, and maybe some best practices to kind of mitigate some of the pitfalls of PTSD and whatnot. So
Nice. So when you think back to our time in Iraq, because I was there in March too when we did the push. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen along the road, crazy things that you just never see. You can't. You talk about things we can't really talk about because there's no place for it. It seems like it just doesn't fit into any sort of real society that we're used to. And so when you think about trying to tell those stories to somebody on here or anywhere, it's really kind of a personal burden that you're going to carry for probably the rest of your life, that you don't want to necessarily impact anybody else around you with, or burden them with it, or tell them those kind of stories. But feel free to open up if you want to in here, or tell it as much as you want, and then talk about your transition a little bit, and talk about coming back, and your mindset, how maybe you had to change some things in your thought process to push past or get along better for yourself or others.
Yeah, the first part of your question was kind of talking about what it looked like driving down some of the streets. Not only in the initial push, but a month or two in, what it looked like driving down that same street at night versus during the day. And you're right, like there are not many scenarios where it's appropriate to facilitate a conversation with somebody else, where it's just appropriate in general, right? Unless you're sitting in a PTSD group with a bunch of cool ass veterans, and you get to talk about some of that stuff where people understand and acknowledge these things. But to give the viewers a small like snapshot of some of the stuff that isn't ideal, is when we made the first push in, our unit went to Ramadi, and we were in Ramadi for 2 or 3 months, and we were helping reestablish a college there. And so in the midst of that, Ramadi sits right next to Fallujah, which is where we spent the next 7 months after that. But it's funny because the same streets that you drive by during the day, folks can be waving at you and cheering and saying thanks for being in our neighborhood. And then that same street at night, the same guys are, shooting RPGs at you, and 7.62s come hitting the side of the Humvee. So it's tough. It's tough to try to navigate those situations. And then they would send some kids out in the street to slow convoys down to beg for some water or food. And when convoys slow down, it makes it easier target. And so that created for a few scenarios that don't really want to get into details about, but it makes it tough, right? There's kids standing out in the front of the Humvee, and slow down isn't an option. So you can imagine what follows after that. So you hold on to, you harbor some of those memories, and it's, as much as you want to try to shake some of those things, you can't. And one of my friends, who's still a good buddy of mine, he lives in Vegas. He was a driver in one of those Humvees, and a certain scenario situation, he holds on to that every day. And it's tough to kind of get through that. And sometimes it's those emotions are stronger one day than they are the other. And so try to figure out how to be there for him and help him get through that. It's been tough waters to navigate. But I think as soldiers and Marines and sailors, as they're transitioning out of the military today, I'd imagine it looks different than the day that I got out. And we were in the midst of heavy wartime. So when all of these bases and posts and areas that people were stationed, as everybody was overseas, you had a bunch of reservists or National Guardsmen kind of running the posts. And so the transition out for me was ran by somebody who, a weekend warrior, if you will, who didn't know a whole lot. And so we didn't get some of the help as we got out that I think some people are getting today. And so in my company, I help co-lead employee resource group for veterans. And we get to hear some of these testimonials and stories about guys getting out and getting help, whether it's psychological help or help writing a resume or just help kind of translating military jargon into civilian jargon, and how they would be eligible for employment in the civilian world. So my transition, I would say, was a little rough, and getting help, like going to the VA and like kind of initiating claims and stuff, wasn't something that I was even interested in doing, because I just kind of compared myself to, oh, my buddy got his leg blown off, so that's somebody who needs to go to the VA and get help, not me, right? I came back with both arms and both legs, and not even thinking that the stuff that I still think about or the stuff that wakes me up at night is affecting me, right? So I didn't see psychological issues equal to physical issues. And finally just started talking with some friends, and actually it was my old platoon sergeant. His name's Jeff Suarez. He kind of started getting me help in, as far as talking with people and opening up, and I remember he shared with me, and this will always stick with me. He said, "Well, why don't you want to talk about it?" I said, "Because if I do, it kind of brings on um, emotions that last for a couple weeks, and then your anxiety goes up, your stress goes up." And he said, "Well, I want you to think of it like this, because this is what my therapist said." He said, "Talking about some of the things you saw is like working out. If you don't hit the gym for 6 months, you hit the gym, you're sore for like 2 weeks. And if you talk about things, you're sore for about 2 weeks emotionally, right? And you're waking up with anxiety, you're thinking about it, you're stressed." He said, "But if you do it regularly with people you're comfortable with, it gets a little easier and more manageable, just like working out, right? And your muscles aren't as sore." So that kind of helped me to find a few people that I was comfortable talking about things with. Most of them are fellow veterans and battle buddies I served with. Um, that really helped me kind of open up and realize I'm affected. This is affecting my marriage. This is affecting my relationship with my parents, with my whole family. And if I don't seek help, then it'll continue to affect it, and God knows where that can end. And so, even though I say I didn't get help right away, I still feel like I got it early on. And so, about 4 years later, after I got out of the Army, that's when I started kind of getting some help and talking with folks. And so, um, yeah, I mean, it's something I wish I would have done earlier, because as I came back, I remember a few talks from some of my civilian employer bosses where they pulled me out back and said, "You're a little too direct. You're a little too strict. You're a little too much this, a little too much that." And I said, "Oh, that's what I'm used to. That's my MO." So, all right, I'm rambling on. Do you want to cut me off and ask me some questions about any of that, or?
No, you know what? It's funny because you reminded me. You were talking about the streets, and you reminded me when I first got out, I went and worked for a school district, like part time. Just wanted to be working for the school district, and I had to get asked these questions. And one of the questions was like, with gang members intertwined in the school, how will you deal with that? And so I was like, well, I was embedded with the Iraqi military, and 10% of them probably wanted to kill us. But they said that 10% was about the bad side of things, right? Maybe it was 20, I don't know. But we had to keep our eyes peeled, report to our seniors, and do all this stuff. So you hit me with two memories. That was one. And so it was kind of a funny memory of mine. Like when you talk about that, like, well, how are you going to deal with gang members? I said, well, I'll just report with it, and this and that. And and I said, hey, just keep going up my seniors and report, and just keep an eye out, make sure everything's good to go, and just deal with the situation as it occurs. But I had that question wrapped up in my mind in that facet, and you can't explain to them like your mindset. You're like, you know, I kind of did. I said, well, in my experience with dealing with the Iraqis, 10% of them wanted to be really bad guys. And I couldn't say, hey, they wanted to kill us. It might not
Yeah.
sound right. So I had to sugarcoat it a little bit, but the answer was still given in a proper way. And so it was funny. That was part of my my transition, is trying to learn how to deal with that kind of processes a little bit better too. And you had another thought, but I just can't remember it. But you're going down the line of just telling your story like it is, and and this may trigger you, like you said, tell your story to anybody to tell their story. It's a trigger maybe. And I just got back from doing a study, not a study, but the PTSD Foundation has a class for us, and during this class, I kind of learned that combat vets, our adrenaline rush gets really knocked up to a point where, because we are so stuck in this adrenaline piece, it'll take us 60 hours to digest that adrenaline per se. So it takes that long to process the adrenaline in our body, where if somebody got chased by a bear today, it might take them 2 hours for the adrenaline to go down. So, as we speak, you might get that a little bit of adrenaline rush. It might take 60 hours, so you might not sleep too good tonight, but maybe tomorrow night you'll sleep a little bit better because you process this. But everybody that's listening, it's hard to fully understand the grasp of what's being said here, talked about, but it's really great discussion, and you're right on line with talking about it, Mike. And your transition. You talked about your job now, kind of too, about how you're hiring veterans, you're doing stuff. If there's any more you want to add to your story, feel free. But talk about some of those things that when you transitioned out, what direction did you go? Did you have a direction? Did you get kind of lost in it and then figured it out, or someone helped you? You didn't get help right away. You talked about that a lot too. And you finally got that help too. So that's really good too. And you're still getting that help. Obviously, having a battle buddy. I mean, knowing that I can call you or you can call me. I like to see sometimes when you're having a rough day, and I don't know what it is, but if I see some post on Facebook or Instagram, you could just tell where one of the vets are just kind of like, "Hey, I'm just on one right now. I'm just kind of fired up," just by the way that they talk. And I've seen you're fired up a little bit, and it makes me smile a little bit because I know that I don't make a comment about it because I just want to reach out and be like, "Hey, man, I'm glad you're having that hard time, but someone's here for you." And I hope you feel that, and I hope it feels good to know that you got these battle buddies. So, talk a little bit about all that stuff. I know there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, buddy checks are a common thing with combat vets, and I appreciate those when they're done for me, and I like doing them for my fellow combat vets as well too. So the 60-hour measurement of adrenaline, I would imagine that varies. Marines probably a little bit longer, right? Y'all can't come down from it.
Yeah, I'm a corpsman, man. I know I get washed in with the Marines. It's kind of cool because I mean I don't know the difference. My Navy career has been the Marine Corps, so yeah, it may be a little bit more. It's always that a camaraderie between services. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So I'm a co-leader for, like I said earlier, an ERG group, Employee Resource Group, and co-leader for. There's actually four of us leading it, and we represent the four major branches of the military. So um, Pat Urkela, who's the founder, he's a Marine, and then we have Stacy. She's out on the East Coast. She's a Navy vet. Then we have a guy named Rudy up in the Northwest, and he's an Air Force vet. So as we started talking about our mission and what we want to do to help, there was a common theme. It was the transition, where there was an opportunity for military folks to transition into the civilian world, and we were all pretty passionate about it. And so our membership numbers are a little lower compared to some of the ERGs in our company, but we're okay with that. And half of our members are not even veterans; they're kind of allies, if you will. And so they kind of help with that, and they have just some natural patriotism and want to help out. And one of the cool thing is we started helping recruiters understand what a military resume means, and so that's really helped them build their confidence. And we've done it in both. I would call it both directions. So and since we're representing the four major branches, I mean, we don't have a leader from Coast Guard or the Space Force, but as these resumes come in, if it's Army, it goes right to me. And I may not be able to decipher everything on an Army resume, but I can get pretty close. Or I know somebody who can, right? And so recruiters, they would see some of these accolades or skills, if you will, and sometimes they think, oh, this person is overqualified or can do the job easily. And we've helped them understand, well, actually, no, we might be setting this person up for failure because they're not qualified, and vice versa. So what could happen is if they didn't take that partnership with us, they could have hired that person. The person wouldn't have succeeded, and then they lose confidence in hiring military veterans. And then on the flip side, you say, no, we really want to help this person. This person is qualified, and it's already resulted in two really good hires at the corporate level at my job, and so recruiters are starting to take advantage of that and say, hey, here, this person, can you tell me what this resume means? And so it's kind of cool to see, and it kind of helps make sure veterans get a fair shake at a role, because working on howitzers doesn't really translate into a civilian job, but some of the core competencies that we learned as an NCO absolutely translate over. So that's been pretty helpful. And then as COVID kind of dwindles down, and um, we have a couple partnerships where we might try to take advantage of, where we go in and talk during a transition um, class for folks who are getting ready to be discharged, and help them understand, maybe share a testimonial of maybe some paths to go down, or some paths that we went down that ideal or not ideal. So when I got out, I was a little lost. I think I played golf for 90 days straight because I had so much leave saved up that I was still getting paid. And yeah, that was fun. So, and I still am not great at golf, even though I golf that much. And then when the leave was kind of up, it was time to figure something out. I started going to college, and I was studying a little bit of everything. I ended up getting a couple college degrees. I have a degree in photography and a degree in psychology. And I really only did that to collect the GI Bill. um, and at the time, it was the Montgomery GI Bill, which for the newly discharged veterans, they have no idea what that is. They're all about the post 9/11. So halfway through, mine switched to the post 9/11, and ended up getting like an extra year added into my benefits. So it paid for, I don't know, a cent to any college. So it's kind of cool. And I started working for Home Depot. So I was stocking the shelves at night, and I guess kind of the work ethic that the military taught me wasn't hard to shine from a working standpoint. And so it quickly turned into a supervisor role, but that's where. You still hear me, Chief?
Yeah. Sometimes it freezes and skips a little bit, but yeah, we're good.
Sorry, I'm taking the call from my phone, and I had an incoming call, so I had to decline it.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
You
go
can
ahead.
hear me, but I can't hear you, I don't think.
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll keep talking. So I was kind of jumping around from civilian employer to civilian employer, and wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I found that I fell in love with retail because it's something different every day. And some of the most resilient people you'll come across come from retail, right? It's something different you face every day in a different situation and different problems. And um, the perspective of a retail employee is a little bit different than the average human being, I believe, because we're so used to dealing with problems. Um, so, so yeah, I think retail's for me for the rest of my life, and I'm lucky to find a home, and I'm very happy with the employer that I work for now, and I'm especially that I have the opportunity to connect with and help the veteran community. Um, is so fulfilling. And the cool thing is you can find something that you're passionate about that's kind of attached or linked to your role at a company. It naturally increases your engagement overall, and it has. And so I'm super invested in what I do, and it's helped me big time.
Nice. Can you hear me now?
Let me see if I can switch over because I'm not hearing you. I'm not sure if you're on mute or something.
Let's see. No, can you hear me?
Leave it to technology.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Mike?
Okay, we're just gonna keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
All right. I can blab on for days. So you can ask anybody who works with me. I can do it all day. So I'll talk a little bit about in my profile. I talked about fishing and what fishing means to me, and you mentioned a little bit ago, giving me some opportunities to do some of the big charter fishing. And I'll tell you why live right now, why I haven't taken advantage of some of those. And um, so when I started getting help from the VA, naturally some of the psychiatrists and doctors just want to take the easy route, in my opinion, and just give you some pills and say, "Hey, pop one of these a day, and things will go away." And I tried that, and I hated it, and I don't want to become um, reliant on a pill to manage my life. And fishing has always I've always been passionate about fishing. You can ask anybody who I served with after work when we were finally let off of work. The first thing I would do is go out to the streams in Fort Sill and fish the streams and fish the rivers, and just been something I always loved to do. And I fell back in love with it. Um, oh man, probably about 10 years ago. I started bass fishing again, and bass species is something I love chasing and understanding how a bass thinks. But what I found that is not just catching the fish, was just being out there alone was tranquil to me, and it helped me do a lot of reflection, and um, just helped me kind of put my mind at ease and get my mind off of things. And that was my best medicine. And so getting out in nature,
Yeah.
I found, was the thing that kind of kept me grounded. And when I was lucky enough to do it with my dad when he was still alive, that was time that I cherish. And when I'm lucky enough to do it with any of my family members today, it's time I cherish. And so I guess you could say it's my natural medicine for PTSD, and it's what keeps me grounded. And so the idea of going on a big cattle boat with a bunch of dudes I don't know is not an ideal thought for me, because I'm kind of taken away from what I aim to do, is to get some alone time. And I have been on a couple cattle boats recently. A cattle boat, we just refer to it because it's just a bunch of guys on a boat. But it's we actually chartered the whole boat together, so I knew everybody on there. But you can even ask anybody on that boat, where's Mulari? Oh, he's up front fishing by himself. It's just my time, man. It's just what I do. And I love hanging out with everybody, but I also love my alone time. So, um, so that's why when I talk with vets getting out and I see some of them struggling, I help them understand the path that I went, and not everybody has to take a pill every day to kind of get over things, and it doesn't mean it's the end all do all therapy for everybody. But connecting with nature has been my absolute daily pill, if you will. So
Nice. Can you hear me? If
so
you
that
can't,
led into
if the
an
audience can hear
expensive
me,
hobby that my wife
feel
may
free to
frown
type
upon, and I think she
anything
just
to Mike.
commented on here, so she's on there. So bass fishing can get very expensive, and even if you have 15 rod and reels and a couple $1,000s worth of bait, there's always a new bait that you want, and I usually buy it. So turned into an expensive hobby, but it's helped me big time.
That's good, Mike. I know you can't hear me right now. We'll cut the show off early, but there's a lot of people on here. If they have any questions, feel free. I don't know if you can see us typing, but if anybody can type to Mike, if there's anything else you'd like to say, or how we can contact you, that would be great. You can always contact him through me too. So if he doesn't get it typed out, we'll have that in the show notes. Hit me up. I'm all over the place. So anybody want to type anything to Mike, feel free to do so.
Chief, I think you're closing up. I can't hear you. I was trying to read your lips, but I'm not that good at it. But I think you're closing up, man. I just want to say appreciate for having me on. Anybody can find me on Instagram or Facebook. My name, I'm one of a kind. There's not many Mularis, but if anybody ever wants to talk with somebody, man, holler at me. I'm always available.
Thanks, Mike. Hey, this is Combat Vet Vision. This is my show. This is a chance for other combat vets to talk about their lives, their experiences, their opinions, their focus on life, what makes it work. Obviously, we all have our own thoughts, our own things. It's not always wrapped up in one tiny cool basket. And PTSD is an individual thing where people are going through it, and we come together sometimes as a group and kind of mill it out. But it's up to each one of us to really reach out and make something happen. So, I'm honored to have Mike on my show. I'm honored to have each and every one of my guests that come on here. I'm lucky to have Brian Colburn back in this thing 100% with sitchradio.com. And, I'm thankful for the PTSD Foundation of America, Warrior Built Foundation, Operation Silver Star. There's so many of them that I can name. There's guys out there that are doing really cool things. If you want to be on my show, hit me up. If you want to sponsor the show, hit me up, or hit Brian Colburn up at sitchradio.com. Can't say that enough. But till next time, hey, this is Aaron Siebert, retired Navy Chief, signing off. Strength and honor.